Hello, I've decided to show you how to make one of my digital rain collages, or show you how I make them. I use Photoshop and I improvise. Um, it's not it's not that complicated. I use the same sort of things over again. What I've got is I collect all sorts of visual material from photographs I take, photographs I see, things I take off the internet. It's pretty straightforward. I just save them into this folder called raw material, in which there's lots and lots and lots of source images, some of which are of things I've made, drawings, sculptures, some of them are little collages that exist in the real world in sketchbooks and that, and some are photographs taken in galleries, and a lot are just things I've seen on the internet that are interesting. So here we go. I have a straightforward template, which is this folder here, this file here, which is a white square. And then what I normally do is I go looking for a background. I don't use a white or a plain background, generally speaking. I tend to want to use something that's got some interference or difficulty, just to give it that sort of a complexity in the background. Let's use this. This is part of a work that Chris Graham made at Bank Street Arts. It's polythene with red tape all over it, indicating the Middle East. So let's drag it. We've dragged it into now, so it now here it is sitting as a second layer on top of the main layer in Photoshop on the template. I work in the layers because, well, that's the way Photoshop works, but also it means I can make things, do things, and interfere with each other in an interesting way. So I think it needs a little bit of tweaking. So I'm just going to do adjust the tone, auto contrast, and auto color, which just changes it and intensifies it. I think it needs a little bit more, so I'll go into the curves tool and make the dark bits darker and the light bits lighter. So that increases the contrast. That looks a bit mad now, which is good. So there we have a background. It may change, but that's what it is at the moment. I'll then try and look for. Sometimes I'll just open several at once, and sort of mash them together in an interesting way. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Again, just to say it is completely improvised. I'm not sure how any particular piece is going to work out. This is interesting. What I could do is I could open this work, which is a light work, a photograph I took at the Venice Biennale. And if I drag that across on top of, already that looks interesting to me. So I'm going to rotate that. So just make that. You can see that the image exceeds the size of the template. So I'm going to rotate it just to disorient a little bit, because it's pretty obvious it's lying on the floor. Let's get a bit more in there. There we go. But if you sort of invert it, it looks different. I'm going to get rid of the black, or a lot of it, because I've got black behind. So using the magic eraser, which when I select the black, will delete a lot of the black. Here we go, bang, and then you can reveal what's underneath. And it reveals anything. It just deletes anything that's the similar colour to the pixel that's been selected. So it's a way of deleting it, and you can actually see how much or little has been deleted. So it leaves this kind of granular and rather interesting effects. So this is kind of using a photograph as raw material to make something that's not the photograph but is based on it, and just using the effects in Photoshop to generate disorienting, and disorientation is an important part of the work, and confusing fields. That's quite exciting. So I put that. So that's what it's going to look like on there. I think I need to differentiate this white bit. So I'm going to use the stroke tool, which I use a lot. What it does, it basically, anything on that layer, it puts a border around it, and you can use a thick border. What I'll do is I'll get rid of the background. Let's start again. Let's get rid of the background. So I'm using this top layer of the lights. Select the stroke tool, and then if I make it defaults to a 3-pixel border, but if I make it if I can go back to that, it's 250 pixel border, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to leave some of that. This dotting, this constellations it's got. That's because there are pixels left behind in that erasing process, and they've not all gone. And of course, a tiny pixel, I might not be able to see it in a normal run of the thing, but it is there, and it detects it and puts a border around it, which of course you can see. You can also change the colour of the border, and regular viewers will realise that that green is very important. So there we go. I am going to just delete, because the image is bigger than the square, it does leave a little border which I'd like to get rid of. I don't really want that. And there we go. So the green is again, I'm nicking stuff from Chris all the time, but he uses that to distinguish the idea of depleted uranium. It's sort of a radioactive colour, depleted uranium, which is allegedly used in weapons. So that's now kind of an odd background that I can work with. I could merge these down and make them one layer now, but I'm going to leave it just in case something else happens. And then I'm going to have a look again in the raw material and find something which is exciting to use. As you can see, there's lots of different things. We've got a clock, Beyonce, Horton Services. I think the clock's good. I haven't used the clock for a while. Again, let's make this a tribute to Chris Graham. This is something he did to a clock in the same installation. So we've got a theme now. And this is what happens. You start to make something, and then it becomes clear in the making what's going on. I'm going to turn that upside down to make it confusing. If I put that there, and this is now where I think actually it would be interesting to make it fill the space, to put it behind. So I'm going to drag it behind that effect. But I'm going to get rid of. So I've selected the clock layer. Let's delete or hide the spattery green layer and select the clock layer. And I'm just going to remove the wall, as it were. So I'm using a magic eraser as well, but I've upped it so that it will there's a more tolerance, so it will delete more. Get rid of that tiny line, and then I actually want to get rid of the right hand side as well. But I'm not. If I delete that, it will delete half the clock, which is interesting. No, I don't want to do that. Sometimes I do. So I will try and reduce the tolerance, and then yeah, it will. It'll do that. That's fine. And I'm going to make that auto tone, so I should punch the black up and the white up. Okay, and now add that. I think I want to see the clock face a bit more, so I'm going to make it so that that's appearing out of it. Now that's quite a complicated image already. I think I'm going to call that the background. I've made the background, so I'm going to merge those layers so I don't mess with it. I now need to put something in front of it. And what might I put? Loads and loads of options. You will know if you've been looking at these that I recycle lots of these images. They appear in more than one. I'm going to go up and I'm going to play completely to Chris, I think, and just put in something of his. Oh, actually, no, that's interesting. I might put this chap. This is something sculpture I photographed, but I'm only going to put half his face in. So I'm going to go bisect him like that. I don't want the whole face. I'm going to put half the face, and I'm going to see. I'm already thinking how does this relate, and I'm thinking it's Old Father Time because we have a clock. So maybe I've got a title. Maybe it's Old Father Time. Maybe it's and this is how the titles emerge. They're not. I don't start with an idea of a title. It often comes to me while I'm making it. I'm just going to duplicate him. So I've done that, but what I want to do is put him on the other side as well, which means I need to turn him around the other way. I'm going to make him a little bit thinner on that side. And that's the beauty. You can actually just squish these things. Now I'm going to merge that layer. I'm going to burn his eyes out. I have this this way of doing stuff, which is it's very repetitive actually. So if I burn his eyes out like that, boom, suddenly it changes the dynamic of it. And I can then, what I've been doing recently is adding a flare to the eye using the brush tool. I can do this. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. That's deleted it. I need to paint with the brush. So let's do the 300 pixels and add a pink on a new layer. Give him some Terminator eyes. So I'll do that, but then what I'm going to do is delete the middle bit. This gives it a kind of and then I can actually put another colour in there. And often it is a question of me just so here we go. Just playing with things until they go right. And the beauty of Photoshop is you can just you can delete, you can add, you can delete, you can add, you can. So by doing that, you can see, especially on the left hand side, this kind of pink deleted, the green then deleted, which I've just done. Because there's green underneath him on the right, there's a kind of a blankness. That's okay. I'm going to add some behind him. I'm going to actually, I want to bring out those eyes a bit more. So I'm going to fill in, here we go, some black underneath. So that's me adding black below him, and then that pings the eyes right out. He now looks a bit more sinister. And there we go. I mean, that's sort of more or less it. I'm going to just image adjust this, use the curves for the guys' heads. I think they're a bit soft. The photograph's a little bit out of focus. So sometimes you need to just do, a lot of it's about masking the inadequacies of the source material. So I can make them look quite, there we go. Makes them look quite digital and not like wood at all. So now we have a digital clock, or digital faces. And then I'm going to use this merge tool, the smudging tool, to make his hair stretch across. This I've been using a lot recently, and it's basically a way of showing how everything is caught in a web and everything's related. So although there isn't really specific meaning to any particular, some of them more than others, but what I'm trying to do is build a series of work that plays with images, plays with art history. Now I'm going to smudge the smudge. I don't want to do that. Plays with images and art history and contemporary news footage or images, plus the issues that confront us about terrorism and intolerance, but also marrying them to some kind of idea of history. There's been a lot of, in the work, I've used a lot of images from Caravaggio, who painted John the Baptist, who was beheaded a few times. And it struck me that while I was doing this, I'm a big fan of Caravaggio, that you know, there's always been beheadings in the Middle East. That's not to excuse what's happening. It's just a fact that it's a kind of a cultural practice which, you know, isn't new. And the West is by no means innocent in its use. I'm getting into the meaning of it now. I didn't really want to do that, but I'm interested in similarity and how things are similar to other things. And that seems to be an interesting thing to do with these works, is I can place things in a similar context, or in a similar space, and smash them together using the collage, and then wrap them up with these lines as well, and these networks of relationships. So here we go. The one last thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to go back into these guys' heads, and I'm going to stick a hole above the eye in the forehead. I'm interested in they used to do something called trepanning, which is, you know, when you so maybe I can put a couple, you can have too many. That works. In fact, perhaps they can all be eyes. So what I'm going to do is I've got the eyes here. If you look, I can merge the eyes, and I'm going to select one of them, select the right hand eye, and copy it and paste it. And then I'm going to add it to these holes I've just made, and then I can do another one, and then another one, and then another one. Keep going basically until I'm happy. And what this does is it moves the image further away from itself, the source image away from itself, but hopefully relates it to, through use of colour or through a bit of the imagery that I use, and it ties this drawing, this collage in with others in the series. So I'm going to call that, I'm going to merge all the layers down, merge everything, so that's now one layer, so I can't go into it and tweak it. I can only put more stuff on it or delete it, and then save it. And there we go, that's a digital rain, and I'm going to call that one, put it in the completed one, I'm going to call it 38381 time, and just leave it at that. Some of them have more complicated titles, some of them are quite simple. Thank you very much for watching.